everyone. Welcome to our podcast, Let's Play It by Ear. This is our fifth episode of this season, and today we're going to talk a little bit about, I think, the differences between practicing for your recital versus practicing for an ensemble performance. Full disclosure, when I planned this episode, I thought I would know exactly what to say. Now I think my mind has gone blank.
It's okay. I'll draw something out of you. Don't worry about it.
This will be an open conversation.
Yes.
For lack of better description.
I love it. So, well, let's start it then. Okay. Now, when we say a recital, we mean a solo performance, right? Yeah. So, I guess let's talk mindset first. Like, what's the difference in your mindset solo performing versus ensemble performing?
Actually, that's a very good point. I mean, thinking back to when we were in school, I have not done a solo recital ever since, and I don't like to. I don't exactly relish in that. That's my first point for my mentality and where my mind is at. I very much like to be in the middle of a group. I don't like the spotlight on me. I know that for us as instrumentalists, we'll have the pianist with us,
right?
Generally, but still, I feel like there's so much pressure on you to prep and play everything 100%. There is no 100%, really. You can always improve. No. But that's how I feel, or how I felt.
So is it essentially for ensemble performance, is there like an excitement in there then?
Yeah, because you get to hear like the chord with, like, if you looked at an orchestral score, it's so many lines. You hear everyone together.
Yep.
That energy that you feed off of, I think.
Oh, you like to feed off of that energy. So when you're solo, yeah, but no, I feel you. But like, so when you're solo performing, is there something about the energy that you don't like feeding off of that energy?
It's very much a nervous energy that I get from me.
Oh, like you're emanating nervous energy. Okay.
I mean, chamber music is okay.
Yeah. Oh, so I love chamber music. Yeah.
How about you?
So I'm a little weird, I would say. I do like solo performing, but I dream of it actually. But I need to be able to be the one running the show. Like, I don't want someone to give me the rules of what to do. If that makes sense.
It makes total sense. Knowing you.
So yeah, I have a history of this. For anyone who's just joining in and has not heard the previous episodes, my favorite recital was one where I chose to play the Golden Flute Concerto by Chen Yi. And that was a personal choice of mine. I found it randomly in the library. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. And so I studied it and I performed it. And it was amazing. I loved it. And in that recital, I really felt like I owned the room, you know? And I kind of like, I was actually just talking about this with my stream today because someone did ask me, like, how do you prepare for a performance? Like, do you have a tradition that you do pre-performance that you do?
Right.
And for a solo performance, especially one that I have chosen the music for myself and I'm running the show, I think I got to do it for my third year recital because it was not my graduation recital. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you have more leeway in your junior recital. So there's a moment between sound check and when people come in where people are not allowed to come into the hall yet. And you're just kind of preparing backstage. In that time, what I did was, and I love doing this, is I go out onto the stage and I mentally throw my presence out into the room. And what this does for me, and I'm pacing across the stage while I do this. And what this does for me is it makes me feel like I own the room.
Are you holding a certain posture when you're
Yeah.
walking across the stage? Okay.
Yeah. It's like a very upright posture.
Mm.
And I'm just essentially, there's like this bit of like a mantra going on in my
Yeah.
head of like, this is my space. People are coming into my space where I'm sharing with people. And I will take these people on a ride. Like I will take these people on a mental and an emotional ride, you
Okay.
know? And so when the people are let in and I'm backstage,
Mm-hmm.
I feel they're coming into my space.
So that way you feel comfortable already because
Yeah.
this is your territory.
Yes. Someone exactly said that on my chat. They're like, you're marking your territory. And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I am.
That's
That's
not
what
me,
I'm
but
doing.
yes.
Yeah. Not by peeing, but
Yeah.
like, I'm marking my territory, mentally, So, but it does make the energy in the room different.
Okay.
It's almost like people can sort of kind of telepathically feel it too.
They can. People very much can feel
Yeah, it's
energy.
like when someone's presence comes into the room, you can
Mm-hmm.
feel
Mm-hmm.
it. And so essentially I've thrown my presence out and filled the entire room with my presence.
Mm.
And so the energy as a result of that, I love.
Okay.
If I don't do that in a solo performance setting, um, it's a train wreck.
Guaranteed.
Be- Almost guaranteed. Because
Mm-hmm.
if it's solo and I haven't done that, right?
Okay.
So I feel, because what I feel is that I am encroaching into other people's space,
Mm.
and that I have to prove myself worthy to be in their space.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel, and then that makes my performance really terrible. Is that how you feel?
That's me. I never. Well, I mean, of course, I would never have thought to like. I own this room. It's more like, oh my gosh, this room's too big. I feel like everyone's just coming to judge me.
Mm-hmm. It's because, at least when I feel that way, it's because I feel like I'm encroaching onto their space, and I have to prove myself.
Yeah, the second point very much.
Yeah, I hate that. For me, it's like, I own this room. You guys are going to feel and think things my way for this hour, and you will have no say in that otherwise.
I like that.
Yeah. And then it's a great performance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have no inhibitions then.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't have to do this chamber though. If it's chamber performance, or if it's like a ensemble performance, I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to do it, because I think it's just strength in numbers.
Yeah, that
Like,
too. And
yeah.
you're not the person that people are paying attention to. There's
No.
so many others.
There's so many others, exactly. So I almost kind of feel like, just from the sheer number of people,
Mm-hmm.
that like, if it's like 5 people, like a wind quintet, that's
Yeah.
already enough people to establish quite the presence already,
Mm-hmm.
that people are walking into.
Okay.
It's when it's a singular person, that's when you essentially have to mark, at least for me, I feel that I have to mark my territory in order
Mm-hmm.
to do it well. Probably the only exception is doing competitions,
Mm.
because for competitions, you can't really mark your territory. You're sort of, you're going one after another,
Yeah.
so like, essentially I have to go out with the intention, I have to like come out onto the stage with the intention of throwing my presence out in people's faces immediately. And it happens very quickly. It happens just from the moment you enter the stage to when you are standing there. That's the only amount of time that you have to throw your presence
Right.
out.
Almost
And if
instantaneous and
exactly. So like, it has to be very intentional, And you have to like believe in it so hard. Like you have to act so well that you believe what you are doing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, method acting essentially.
Yeah.
And so you have to act it in that time frame and own the room in that time frame.
Then if say you're a person who has more of a shy personality and they're not very
Yeah.
confident,
Yeah.
they can still act that way. Do you think then the more they act that way, they're eventually going to become used to it and that's going to be a part of their true self?
It
Or
it
will that be
depends from
that
person to
imbalance and that
person.
tension kind of?
Yeah, like I think it depends from person to person. Like there is some truth to fake it till you make it.
Mm-hmm.
There's absolutely some truth in that, you know? Because if you act well enough and people believe you, the energy that you will feel from them will be a very positive energy. It'll be a very positive and welcoming energy,
Mm-hmm.
which will then make you more relaxed and then you'll play better. And it's just like a very nice positive feedback loop that keeps happening when you're performing, right? So, like, I know we said that we're going to talk about practicing, but, I guess in a way, you do kind of have to practice this part,
Yeah.
the marking your territory, essentially.
Well, I mean, as much as we were intending on saying practicing for something,
Mm-hmm.
we cannot discount the fact that mentally preparing is
Yeah,
part
is
of
part of
practicing.
practicing. Yeah.
You're not just like not
Mm-hmm.
focusing on anything, your brain. It can't just be wandering about.
Yeah.
You have
It can't
to,
just be the notes,
yeah, you have to be
like,
intentional about it, like you said.
yeah, 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 yeah. So, like, that I at least I feel that that's the major difference in the mindset between solo and chamber. So I have realized that I like all of them. I like them all.
Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Um but I have tried to share the solo thing before because people are like, how do you just like like performing solo? Like what do you like about that experience? Like that's terrifying, isn't it? And I'm just kind of like, I get it. I get why it's terrifying because I have had terrifying solo performance, experiences. I have, and I hate those experiences. But there's like, why do I crave it? It's because I did it one time. And it's addictive
Yeah,
after you do it successfully the first time.
yeah.
Then you like I sound so terrible every time I say this, but there is a certain power that you feel from doing it. Like it's very self-empowering, and it just makes you feel like you could take anything on. Like you just feel like Superman,
Yeah.
And it's a great feeling.
I don't think there's anything wrong or that you should feel guilty about liking that self-empowerment because you're not
Yeah.
hurting anyone.
Yeah, I'm not.
You're sharing the music, you're being generous,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you're kind of enriching those people's
Yeah.
lives by playing and
Yeah.
sharing
But I
sharing the art.
crave that feeling of power, you know?
Just don't misuse it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like that's the part that I'm like I'm usually actually very shy to tell people that I love the power of being the person running the show.
Mm.
Like I was my brother's MC for his wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And his wedding had 800 people show up for the wedding. And I loved being the MC. It was, oh, what a great experience. I did a really stupid thing where, because I had to make sure that people would come up in an orderly fashion to take the photos after the ceremony,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
So I was like, what stupid way can I use to control this like crazy, congregation essentially? Or they were actually multiple congregations. There were multiple churches of people coming. And like, what can I do to control this mass of people to do what I say and remember what I say? So
Right.
I came up with this on the fly. Did not tell anyone I was going to do this. It was completely improvised, which I guess is my style anyway. But they were like, I was like, okay, everyone needs to enter on the left. All right, everyone point with me. And I made all 800 people go left, left, left. So everyone's chanting left,
Oh,
left, left.
okay, yeah.
When, to enter. And I was like,
Mhm.
and where do you go when you exit? Right, right, right. So I like made 800 people like chant this with me. My God, the power that I felt doing that. Like, I just controlled 800 people to say and chant something really stupid together, you know? And sure enough, if anyone got it wrong, like I literally saw people like shaming them going left, left, left. Yeah.
Oh,
If people tried to enter on the right, they'd be like shaming them using my chant.
yeah.
And it's like that energy from like essentially it's like controlling
Hmm.
a huge mass of people. Um it's addicting. I really love it. Like
Intoxicating, it sounds
it's
like.
intoxicating. It is intoxicating. Like, so that experience and my third year recital, those are the two experiences that I was like, that's where I got hooked on that feeling of like, I do really like doing this solo, you
Mm.
know? And I would like to do it again. I actually would love to, like, when I have some time when life calms down a little bit, because life is crazy right now for me. But when life calms down a little bit, one of my goals actually is to put on a small venue solo recital, because I want to have that feeling again.
Yeah.
Like I've been holding on to that feeling again, so I'm like, well, you know, I'm the master of my own destiny now. Like I can choose whatever pieces I want,
That
and
is true.
just run the show. Do it exactly the way I want. But yeah, so like uh that like but yeah, it like even for someone like me though, even though I love that feeling, if I don't prep correctly,
Mm.
it ain't happening.
How would you prep correctly then?
So like prepping, well, we talked a little bit about it last time,
Hmm.
which was that I do my 2 week marathon
Yeah.
of every night at around 9 or 10 p.m. You run your entire recital program all the way through.
Mm.
It's so that, you know, half the venue can be on fire and you can still play. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. While you're leaving, you're still playing. Like you should be able to do that,
Hmm.
right? So that's what I'm doing as a stamina
Mm.
endurance type of training.
Yeah.
So it's endurance training for 2 weeks prior. If I have more time, I would actually extend it to 1 month training.
Mm.
1 month endurance training. It's like marathon training,
Mm.
basically. So endurance training, I would prefer a month, but normally the way my schedule works out is only 2 weeks.
Mm.
And that is usually enough time for you to play really well at your recital. But I don't actually practice much beyond those 2 weeks endurance training. All
Oh,
of your practicing of getting to know the music and stuff like that has to happen well before those 2 weeks.
yeah.
Yeah. You have to know your music inside and out before you get to the endurance marathon.
How long then would you start learning a new piece if you knew you had a recital, like
It
something
depends on
specific?
the nature of the piece, right? Like if the piece is crazy like the Eber, well, I've been studying it for 3 years and I am only just now getting to the point where I'm like, I think I could do it if I did an endurance marathon. I
Okay.
think. I
Okay.
think I could do it.
Hmm.
Yeah. But like that was 3 years. For something like the Eber, right?
Right.
Now, for something like the my YouTube chat is getting me to memorize the Kargaler Caprice number 29.
Mm.
So I'm memorizing that in 4 stints and like 4 live streams. And
Hmm.
then in between each live stream, I'm drilling what I learned.
Right.
I feel like by the time I get to the fourth week, or after the fourth week, that is,
Hmm.
I probably could do endurance marathon like for 2 weeks after that and perform it. So in total, that would be like 6 or 7 weeks.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is more like practice at least a half a year before.
Yeah, that's a good, that's a good kind of average time to hit.
Hmm.
Because what that will allow you to do is that, like, if there's an easier piece, right, and then you already finished learning it in like a month, great, then you have more time to work on the other pieces
Yeah.
that you are not as confident in, so
Hmm.
that by the time you get to the 2 weeks before, everything is up to snuff and you can just endurance marathon it up
Hmm.
for 2 weeks. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I remember last week, I believe, or the last couple of weeks,
Mm-hmm.
the last few episodes, we spoke about preparing for exams.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, as a teacher, I would generally recommend that my students look well in advance
Yeah.
of when they want to do the exam,
Oh yeah.
and at least like start learning the music a year before,
Yeah.
even especially
One
because
year
I'm dealing
before.
with younger crowds as well too.
Yes.
You have to understand the music. You have
Mm-hmm.
actually not that play the notes, know the
Yeah.
notes, know your rhythm,
Yep.
uh, know the dynamics, all the articulations, expression, what you want to do with the music,
Yep.
and
Yep.
then start polishing it up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's already maybe 2 3 months
Yep.
into the game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, half a year to 1 year is the right amount of time
Mm-hmm.
to learn stuff. So that is one of the reasons, actually, why preparing for a recital when you're in music school does feel pretty rushed.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you don't choose the piece until September or October, and you're already performing it in like March. Apologies for the very abrupt cut there. My internet pooped, and we're back now. So let's continue our conversation. We were talking about
How I think university recitals they feel very rushed because you're choosing
right.
your repertoire only like towards the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes not even actually. You find yourself
Yeah.
learning a piece or two, and then your professor or your teacher decides, nah,
Nah.
let's do another one.
Yeah. Yeah. So, very common to not finalize your recital program
Mm-hmm.
until October or November.
Mm-hmm.
I've even heard as late as January or February. Um,
Yeah.
we have heard of cases like that. And then a lot of times people like to do their recitals in like March or April, something like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
That I would say that's the most common time to do your recital, because then it's not slammed right next to your exams and stuff like that. You
Yeah,
know?
that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, one, I don't know if it's so much as a tip as one thing that I think I did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so what I would like to do after my recitals, I would kind of start planning the pieces that I wanted to learn for next year and start
Mm.
already practicing those so I could bring them to lessons
Yeah.
when the new school year started. So
Yes.
that would be what I'd be looking at over the summer.
I wish I did that. I did not.
Well, you did your endurance training. I did not, but I kind of looked ahead at the pieces.
Right.
And
Yeah.
sometimes I spoke with my professor as well too. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, I'm considering learning blah 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 pieces for next year, and they'll either say, okay, yeah, sure, you can do that, or not yet.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I got some of my pieces vetoed for my graduation recital.
Hmm.
And so unfortunately I just did not really feel that recital, if you get what I mean.
Hmm. Hmm.
Cuz I understand that it was for an educational purpose, and so, like, like, I did what I should have, which
Hmm.
is to do what my teacher says that I should play,
Right.
but I'm admittedly very rebellious by nature. And so, um, and I was very hot headed at the time. So I didn't really think that clearly in terms of what my teacher was trying to do for me. And I did not understand it. I was too naive, I think. So, um, yeah, I just didn't really, I didn't feel that recital. Like, it just wasn't, I was not happy with it, with
Mm.
that recital. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you get to do one soon.
Yeah, I'd love to. I actually did a few, I think after graduation. I called them my bar stools and benches.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, bar stools and benches series. Where essentially, like, because I wanted to make things really relaxed, so I would actually perform on a bar stool, and then the benches was for my pianist, like piano bench.
Yeah.
So I wanted that kind of coffee shop feel too. So instead of having a separate reception, the reception happened at the same time
Mm.
as the recital. So people
Why
got
not?
to like, yeah, people got to just have coffee and snacks, and they could like sit around tables and stuff and just relax and not feel like they're in like a performance,
Yeah.
So that relaxed them down too, and it just made for such a great experience. And I really want to do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to
I
join you for that.
I would love for you to perform with me for that,
I
cuz
want to.
one thing I really want to do is um I got, and you remember this. I hired espresso catering for my wedding,
Yes.
and I would love to do that for one of these recitals.
Can we?
Yeah, that's what I want to do. That's my dream. Is I want to rent out a tiny little church that has really great acoustics. I already
Mm-hmm.
know which one I'm thinking of
Okay.
because we were almost going to get married there.
Okay.
And I decided that it was a better performance venue than it was a wedding venue for
Right.
us. But it'd be so easy to just hire Espresso Catering, the same company that did
Yeah.
our wedding,
Yeah.
and like people could just, it's like literally just like coffee and music.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It would be so good. That's the dream.
Okay.
That's the dream.
And we can renew our friendship there.
Yes, yes. I love it. But yeah, anyway, I did want to ask you though,
Mm-hmm.
because you're more the ensemble person out of the two of us.
Yes.
So what do you do to prepare for an ensemble performance?
Um, with my schedule now, I know I don't have a lot of time to practice my parts as much as I want to and as much as I should.
Mm-hmm.
So I make sure I do have the music in PDF form. So I have it on
Mm-hmm.
my computer and then I listen to it several times. When I can, I look at the score while listening. Sorry, not score,
Mm-hmm.
my part, while listening to it.
Right.
Um, so just to clarify, score usually means uh like music
Mm-hmm.
that includes multiple parts. Yet everyone in the ensemble and what they're playing. So for example,
Exactly.
this is a score for
Mm-hmm.
um piano and bassoon.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll list the instruments there, and then everyone has their own line or
Yep.
lines.
And you can see how everything lines up.
Yeah,
Just like,
so that's a score. So
mm-hmm.
what I mean is I'm looking at my music,
Mm-hmm.
my part. There will be times where I will look at scores as well too, because if it's a piece I really am not familiar with and
Mm-hmm.
I do have access to a score,
Yeah.
I want to know where my part fits in. Because
Right.
sometimes, being a bassoonist, I can't really tell just by listening to the recording.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear everyone else's. I
Yeah.
don't know what bassoon is doing or music is doing.
Yeah.
So that's where a score comes in handy.
Got it.
So after doing that, then that's when I practice.
Okay.
Sometimes I play just the beginning of the recording before I practice, so I'm
Got it.
reminding myself of what it should sound like, what the tempo is as well too.
Got it. Got it.
Um, yeah, and then if it is more technical,
Mm-hmm.
I'll just take those chunks first. I'll drill it, play it
Yep.
really slowly,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then take out the metronome and slowly bump it up
Yep.
to where I need to go.
Yep.
Uh, One example of when I did that and it really helped was when I was playing Othello with Vancouver Opera. There was a
Mm.
part that I think I may be misremembering the tempo marking right now, but I think it was tongued at quarter to 172 or something like that,
Mm.
possibly.
Oh God! Wow!
I don't think it was 117, but it was a pretty fast tempo.
Oh
Again, don't
my
quote me on the tempo.
gosh!
I
Yeah.
could be way off mark, but it was fast.
Yeah.
It was fast. I had to like set the metronome as low as I could, practice
Mm-hmm.
it every single day, slowly bit by bit bump it up. And there's a silly trick that I use to help myself with increasing the tempo. I don't
Mm-hmm.
look at how many clicks I'm increasing.
Oh, that's good
So
because
I
then you
just
don't psych yourself out.
yeah. So I play
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
maybe three, four, or five times as many times as it takes for it to sound good and
Yeah.
accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And then I increase the tempo bit by bit.
I love it.
It may be 2 clicks in one go, maybe three, maybe five, maybe six.
But then you don't psych yourself out,
Yeah.
And even up to 5 or 6 clicks, I find is still close enough to what you just did that it doesn't make that much of a difference.
Sometimes it will. Depends
That's
on the
true.
passage.
That's true. You're right. It does depend on the
Yeah.
passage.
But I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't matter. If it is too fast, then I'll lower it by a click or two.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's no shame in that. That's just
Yeah.
kind of how it goes. You're
Yeah.
essentially like testing your limits then, right?
Hmm.
Got it.
And for really lyrical passages, then I just like to have at it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ham it up, kind of.
Oh, that's so. I loved when you were playing. Like, oh, we recorded this out of order. Um,
Just
but
because of where we're living. We just want to be
exactly.
respectful to our neighbors.
Yeah, but
Bit of
we
foreshadowing.
we actually just recorded the last episode right before this, and Carrie played. You guys will hear it next time. Carrie plays like a little bit of. We'll do a little sneak peek, a little bit of Rite of Spring, just like your tone. I was just like, girl, my God, I love that. Like, but I love that you take the time to just like ham things up. Like, that is fantastic. That's actually something I need to do.
Because I find if I don't, you can lose touch with the musical
Yeah.
side of what you are
Yes.
doing. You're losing
Absolutely.
the emotional side of what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I just want to be reminded of why I'm doing music in the first place.
Oh, that's so good. I mean, I think that is particularly like, is like, you know, uh, relevant to what I'm practicing now too,
Mm.
because I'm practicing like how to make super technical things sound musical.
Mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm.
know, because what's the point of playing the super technical thing if you don't do it musically and entertain and like at least entertain yourself,
Yeah.
while you do it, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. You have to be able to enjoy
Yeah.
it first in order to share it with someone.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to find that enjoyment, and I'm like, you know, uh I'm comparing like how do I play music that I play for fun?
Mm-hmm.
Like what am I doing physically differently actually between like for fun music and technical music,
Mm-hmm.
Because there is a physical difference
Yeah.
in how I play. And so I've been exploring the difference between that. So like I I have found myself starting to like I have to kind of let go of the technique and just let myself ham it up, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um it's so hard to do that.
Sometimes you'll find hamming it up, you go in the way you don't expect, and it doesn't sound good, which is useful as well too, because then you know your
Yes,
limit.
exactly. Like it's actually good to know how far you can push it,
Yeah.
you know? Cuz then you won't accidentally go too far in the performance
Yeah,
too,
that's true.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when I was practicing the Berceuse in Firebird. That's a
Mhm.
big bassoon solo. It is an excerpt for audition.
Yep.
It's meant to be quite still, and there's not a lot
Oh,
of like rise and fall. I don't think there
right.
is some to some degree,
Mhm.
but like if you try to over vibrato something or
Ah,
over
yeah.
phrase something, then that's gonna sound off.
Yeah. It'll sound like a tank going through a meadow at sunrise,
Yeah,
like which is not what you want.
yeah,
So,
because at that point in the story, it's you're putting that beast to sleep, right? It's a lullaby. So you
exactly.
can kind of escape and or I think rescue the princess or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, yeah, so you don't want to go rah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the monster's gonna come chase after you instead.
Uh, I wanted to touch on one thing before we
Mm-hmm.
end off. And it's a problem amongst flute players. And so
Mm.
I wanted to know if this is a problem amongst bassoon players too.
Okay.
Um, because for the flute, our orchestral excerpts and stuff like that, like when we prepare for ensemble performances and stuff like that, the number one big thing that is actually commonly taught in the flute world is do not over practice your excerpts. Flutists tend to over practice their little excerpt or whatever like exposed solo they
Mm-hmm.
have before, like right before the concert, like
Oh, like on stage or when
on
they're warming up.
stage on stage and the few days leading up to it.
Okay.
Yeah, flutists, and I have been guilty of this as well,
Okay.
will overplay it. So like, do you guys have that too? Or
Before I answer that, what do you find happens if you overpractice?
you essentially kind of hit a point of no return where it's just downhill. It's just diminishing returns,
Mm.
you know? And you don't want to hit the point of diminishing returns um, at the concert
Yep.
or before the concert.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because some people will hit their high of like peak playing at like the dress rehearsal or at the sound check,
Yep.
or even when they're messing around in the noodly business we do before tuning.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'll do it then and they'll nail it. But then
Yeah.
that usually means that they will not nail it at the actual performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, for me personally, I've never really been told not to overpractice any excerpts. Not that I will, knowing myself. Um, but I have experienced a point where I did play something too much. I guess it's the same thing. I played something too much and it just started going downhill. It was fine the day before or like 5 minutes before.
Yep.
And I practiced that once too many, one
Yep.
too many times.
It only takes one too many
And then
times.
it just crumbles.
Yep.
At that point, I just stop.
Mm.
I don't even touch it. I don't look at it. I try not to think about it. That's hard.
Yeah, you kind of have to remove it
Yeah.
from your mind,
Yeah.
entirely. But it sucks when people hit that point right before.
I remember what when that happened. Or not when, but like what that happened with.
Oh.
Beethoven Symphony 4, the
Uh-huh.
fourth movement, the bassoon. I'm going to sing in the wrong key.
It's fine.
That wasn't even any pitch, but
No,
that's
it was a
double time.
discernible pitch to me at least.
It's tuku 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 tuku.
Yeah.
Much faster.
Yeah.
But yeah, I practiced that so many times. I got it. I wouldn't say perfect, but it was good. I was satisfied with what I was putting out.
Yeah.
And then I decided to play it just one day. Couldn't do it anymore. And I had concerts coming up.
Oh
So
no.
I just took it back down to ground zero as slow as I could
Yeah.
and
That's the
just
way
tried
to
to
do
build
it.
it up.
And were you okay for the performance?
Not really.
Oh
I figured
no.
something out for the performance, but it was
Okay.
definitely not where I wanted it to
Ideal.
be.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, because this is a very common thing, it's a very common warning in the flute world. I
Okay.
wonder if it is because of the nature of flutists. We tend to be very, very much go getters, you
Mm.
know? And so, like, we're very ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's kind of part of the base nature of a flutist is that you have some sort of ambition in you. And so,
I can see that.
yeah. And so that translates very poorly to over practicing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, people will overplay and over practice. So what I've actually started doing is you once you do it enough, you kind of know when you're about to reach your peak.
Mm-hmm.
So I purposefully stopped there.
Yeah, but I think that's a good way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've also heard people say that, oh, it's okay if you didn't do it um,
Hmm.
the way you wanted it to sound in rehearsal or dress rehearsal, especially.
Yeah. Yeah.
That means the performance will be good. I've always
Yes.
kind of took that and like, yeah, okay, because in the performance, especially in an ensemble as well too, like if you're kind of like me, you like to feed off of the energy of other people around you,
Mm-hmm.
your adrenaline is also going.
Yep.
You are also going to be slightly nervous,
Mm-hmm.
not past the point where it's debilitating,
Yeah.
but it's at the optimum point where it helps you function well, I
Even
guess.
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
then banking on all of that, hopefully then yeah, everything's gonna go well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Provided that you've practiced enough before, of
Yeah.
course.
Yes. Yes. Like
Don't
that
go in
has to be a given.
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't go into it winging it.
No.
That's
No.
not gonna that's not
No.
gonna happen.
Like even a sight reader like me had to make sure that I actually like practiced the parts I needed to practice.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Even
Definitely.
I did, which is saying a lot. So, but like, uh, it's very common, and if you guys have not heard this yet, um, it is exactly as Carrie says. It's actually good if the dress rehearsal and or sound check does not is not optimal.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually good because that means that the actual performance will be amazing. If you nail it at the dress rehearsal or the sound check, you'll know
Usually the opposite.
it's usually the opposite. It's usually the opposite. Like
Yeah.
it's really hard to replicate it that many times in a row
Mm-hmm.
perfectly because we're human, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, so, but that's usually what happens. If you do well in the dress rehearsal, you will not do as well at the concert. If you don't do as well as at the dress rehearsal, you will absolutely nail the concert.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens every time.
Funny how things work, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the fun of performing.
Yeah, it is. And it's like I love that adrenaline too. I love the different kinds of adrenaline that you get performing, solo, chamber, large ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very different energy every single time,
Yeah.
and it's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess that's why we're musicians, right?
I
Because
guess
we
so
like
too.
that feeling.
Yeah. Well, I think before we talk about anything negative or going downhill, I think maybe this is a good point to,
Yeah.
to wrap
Yeah.
it up.
This is a great place to wrap up. So I think it's my turn to wrap up.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, wonderful. So thank you guys so much for listening to us. If you guys have anything to add, please contact us. You can, if you're on YouTube, which by the way, please subscribe and like and share and all those fun things to get the algorithm to notice us. But yeah, you can comment below and let us know your thoughts. Otherwise, we have a whole bunch of different social media that you guys can catch us on. We have Facebook at Let's Play It By Ear Podcast. We have Instagram at Let's Play It By Ear Podcast as well. And we also have Twitter at let_ear. And you can listen to us if you are here on YouTube and you would like to listen to us on a like podcasting platform. Anchor.fm is the place to be. Anchor.fm/ Let's Play It By Ear -podcast. And if you want to just send us a direct email, you can go ahead and do so at letsplayitbyear.podcast@gmail.com. And if you want to just see our like whole all the opuses all the seasons that we have recorded, they are all in one neat place for you. letsplayitbyear.com. I can't believe we actually got that domain. I still can't believe it, but it's ours. But yeah, you can listen and watch because both the YouTube links and all of the anchor.fm links are directly embedded into that website. So we hope you guys will join us again next time for our last episode, which is going to be really fun. We're going to practice. We're doing like little mini practice sessions so you guys can have a peek into how we do things. So
Get
we
to see
hope
how we think or hear how we
yes,
think. What we
exactly. So we hope you guys will join us again then. But until then, we hope that you will have a wonderful week and we will see you next week.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Bye bye.
See you.